You're watching Open Agenda.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. In this week's episode, we're going to give you an update on the county business for the week of March 6, 2025, as well as spend some time with a local farmer and some residents of the Canterbury area neighborhoods to talk about the biodiesel refinery that's going to come before the Board of Appeals at the end of March. In the studio with me is Dr. Joe Venosa, Mr. Mike Goldberg. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out.
Always a pleasure.
So just today being on our record day is Thursday, March 6th, we just received a press release in the morning from the county council and a rebuttal from the county executive later in that afternoon. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mike, what is the county council press release and how does it pertain to the court case against them and the county executive?
There had been a lawsuit that was heard initially in the circuit court and then thereafter in the Maryland Court of Appeals with regard to the legitimacy of the deputy director's employment.
And this court case was filed by the county executive,
by
right?
the county executive.
In November of 2023 against the county council and heard in December of 23.
Yes, that's correct. So the appellate court decision was just released yesterday on March the 5th that ruled in favor of the county council and against the county executive.
So, Joe, why exactly did the county executive have to sue the county council over the deputy director's position, and amongst other things?
Well, to sort of simplify it for the public, there's a specific process in our county charter, right? And our county charter is basically the constitution of Wycomico County. It required her to submit a name in a legislative session. She did not do that.
The executive presented two names to the county council in a closed session. That was the request of the executive. It wasn't a case where where it was requested and the president of the council said, no, we're not going to put it in a legislative session. Never happened. It was requested by a closed session. And that, as a courtesy, that's what the council did. They met with the executive on two different occasions in reference to these two employees. Unfortunately, the council, there were very good reasons that the council did not feel it was necessary. It was the best interest of the county to move forward with these two individuals. Just didn't feel they were properly qualified. That was 6 out of 7 members of the council that felt that. So you have two people that were hired that had not been approved through the process where the county council is required to approve this. The executive made the comment tonight that one was hired as an acting deputy director and the council didn't even have any authority to say one way or the other whether that person was authorized. Well, that's because the position of an acting deputy director doesn't exist in Wycomico County. There are no acting deputy director positions recognized in any documentation throughout Wycomico County because there's no such thing. We recognize a director, we recognize a deputy director, we recognize an acting director. There is no recognition. This is a position that was simply made up.
Oh, just so it said, obviously, I made this point before, but if the two names that were put forward tonight, they would be shot down again.
And we voted on that in the 2016 referendum.
Yes.
And that referendum was written by our current county attorney, Paul Wilbur, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's an irony to this. So, long story short, there was a dispute whether or not this deputy director was a legal hire. Was he working illegally?
That in 2016, I believe it was, the general public had the right to vote on a referendum to approve a change to the charter, to amend the county charter to extend the time for the council to act to confirm or reject any appointment by the county executive of the director of administration, the head of a department in the executive branch, or a member of the board or commission from 30 days to 45 days from submission, and to require submission at a legislative session of the council. And that came about because of some issues that occurred before 2016.
Well, and Mike, we're not going to mention this person's name. To our knowledge, they've done nothing wrong themselves. But in the course of a year and 8 months, the salary of $120,000 a year equates out to just about $200,000. And it wasn't just this one appointee. We had at the same time another appointee that wasn't confirmed, and that person since vacated their position, and they were I think it was acting public works director, which is not a position that even exists. The county council at that time, because the county executive refused to remove these people from these positions, elected to defund the positions, right?
That's correct.
The county council feels like its only real option in order to make sure that we get, the only real option that we have is basically to decide to pull the funding temporarily until we can actually have different nominees put forward. So
now, in the press release, what's the kind of language that the county council is using? I mean, what is their assertion as far as the culpability of the county executive?
Well, they are alluding to the possibility that the county executive or the perhaps the director of finance, who actually, for lack of a better term, wrote the paychecks for a position that was deemed to be illegitimate by the appellate court, that they have personal liability. In other words, they may actually be found to and be caused to pay back that money.
$200,000.
And it could be, even more than that. The cost,
With
there's
fees.
legal fees, which are probably pretty significant.
So what if I'm Joe Public, not just Joe Venosa, and I'm looking at this? The simplified sort of situation is that right now, County Executive Julie Giordano and Finance Director Pam Oland could possibly be personally liable for more than probably $400,000 at this point.
I don't think it's that high.
Well, if we count
Maybe a
court
quarter.
costs.
Well, we don't know
plus-
that they're that
Yeah,
high.
we
We
don't
don't
know
know.
what the costs
Okay,
are.
okay.
But
several
a
hundred,
large-
several $100,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, okay, but we need due process here, right? I mean, we need more than just a press release, because we've seen this before with the county council. This is a pretty big assertion, and this isn't their money either. This is our money.
You scheduled a meeting to deliver a letter to me calling me a potential criminal who may have misappropriated funds 3 weeks into office.
I think I reluctantly have to respond to a comment that was made earlier that the executive had made the claim that I had called her a criminal when we'd only been in office for about a month or so. It's a bit of an exaggeration, if not actually a really false statement. But to give you some context, this background is context, so you recognize what the circumstances were here. I'd say within the first month of getting in office, we were all new, and the executive hired 2 members from her campaign to work in her office. Not a crime. The only problem is that the two positions that were not recognized in the position control document of Wicomico County. In other words, those jobs didn't exist in Wicomico County and were not funded in Wicomico County. Still, they were arbitrarily added to her staff. One was called a legislative assistant, the other one was called a public information officer. So you had 2 people who were being hired with taxpayer funding in 2 positions unilaterally created by the executive. Making matters worse in that regard is that the executive chose to pay these 2 individuals not from the county executive's budget. One was paid from the roads department, from the public works, and the other one was getting paid with a check through the finance department, not through the county executive's office. So you had a situation where you had 2 unauthorized individuals working in a non-existent position and being paid with money from 2 other county departments rather than through the executive's approved budget. And it is, as was claimed, a misappropriation of funds. And that's what it is. It's just a misappropriation of funds. And that's the initiative that I took on behalf of the county council. And that was the purpose of the letter that went out.
Well, but forget the money for a moment, right? If this ruling, right, which has now come out, and the county council statements about malfeasance and these egregious violations are true, according to our charter, they have the ability, if not the duty, to actually, of course, continue to push for personal liability.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I know that this money is owed back to us by any individual, or any individual, elected or not, should be removed from office. But the county council has put it out there that they believe something happened. So shouldn't there be a public due process? The county executive came back and asked for money for legal fees to sue the council, so we can sue ourselves. This is where some of this malfeasance of money comes from. The county council publicly said, no, we're not going to give you money to sue us. And there was this big uproar. There was many people angry. There was people asking for resignations of the county council. They were very angry. The county executive still filed a court case against them. So the county executive is the one who sued the county itself. This did not come from the county council. This came from the county executive. She could have simply removed those two people from their positions. One of them at the same time resigned, just like she had to do with the two folks earlier in the year who weren't even on the budget control document at all. Then by November, the appellate, the First Circuit Court ruling came out that sided with the county executive based on a county charter that was before 2016. And I'm sorry, there's no way the county attorney didn't know that charter was the wrong one cited, because he wrote it. He wrote it and he wrote the referendum, and this county attorney only works for the county executive.
The opinion was entered by the court, and the bottom line of the opinion was that it found in favor of the county executive. But when we analyzed the opinion, it recited Section 315 incorrectly. It picked up what apparently was, a version prior to 2016. Filed a motion to alter or revise the opinion, but this is what I have placed in our motion to alter or revise. And what I've done in there is I've highlighted in italics, and I've also highlighted in yellow the words that the court failed to include in its opinion.
And now you go a year and 8 months later, and again, this has nothing to do with the man who took the position, but the taxpayers' money went to nothing. And we should remember one other thing, and this got brought up in public comments at the hearings. The person who was in the deputy department's position was not a Wicomico County resident. And in order for a succession plan with the deputy director of administration, which is only appointed by the county executive, that person must be a resident of Wicomico County. So had our county, our director of administration left, the deputy director is not eligible to step into that role for any reason.
Which was one of several different justifications for the county council to have rejected his confirmation.
Well, if we're going to go through the process of suing ourselves and paying people who aren't confirmed, I think the public at least deserves public hearings about exactly what happened and who is responsible. Because somewhere along the lines, the 8 elected officials we have in this county, this is what's happened. And these are the 8 people who are responsible to us as voters about the results of the work.
So all the conservatives out here in our county, so she pays those 2 people out of other departments. Now, how can you have correct financing practices? How can we have correct financial procedures when you're paying people out of the wrong departments to fulfill a job?
I just hope they do their jobs, fulfill their obligations to act as the check and balance on the executive branch. Otherwise, we don't.
If you're not going to do the most basic job of the oath that you swore, which is to follow, in this case, the county charter. I mean, you follow the Constitution, but our county constitution is the charter. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be on that council. I don't care who you are, your party, your views, your abilities. You shouldn't be in that position if you can't do the most basic thing.
So tell us, what exactly did the county executive put in her press release that was released around noon on Thursday, March 6th?
Well, there was a lot of rhetoric, that's for sure. But one thing that certainly has jumped out at me, where she stated that the court clearly stated, who has been serving as Assistant Director of Administration since June 26, 2023, is entitled to his salary until the effective date of our being the appellate court's mandate. And really, nobody's disputing that.
Like
I mean,
he's
he
not
hasn't done anything
Yeah, he's not
wrong.
liable to pay it back.
Absolutely not. I mean,
I think they made that crystal clear in the ruling.
it's not his fault
Right.
if the government improperly employed him. You know, so what he did was in good faith. So there's no dispute on that. But the issue is that the executive branch of government was not authorized to pay him. So by the fact that they were writing the paychecks, that's where, for lack
buck
of a
stops
better
at the
term,
county executive's
the
office.
crime
Yeah.
was. So
But that's what the charter says I have to do. And so I follow the charter, and that's what I've done this entire time is follow this charter.
If you've got somebody who is committing a crime in public repeatedly, okay, and you have an officer who's watching it and doing nothing, at what point
That's dereliction
is that dereliction
of duty.
of duty? So at what point, if now we've got 4 documented examples where the executive's office has specifically, right, tried to either usurp or use fraudulent means to move positions and money around, and now we've got a court ruling, right, on record stating so for a major egregious violation, at what point does the county council actually have to do their constitutionally bound job?
This is where, and to quote the county executive, this is why we have separation of powers. But this is what keeps checks and balances in place.
So why be an elected office as a council person if you're not going to do your job, I guess is the question. And again, I'm not personally going after anybody, but I'm legitimately asking this as a philosophical question about the nature of the role you're elected to. If your job is to be a check on an executive and to follow, right, the stipulations of the charter, and you don't do that, why are you there?
And, I think one thing that folks out there watching this show need to remember, and like you and I, politically, we may very much align with the county executive on many politics, especially national stuff. Sure. But that doesn't mean that the next county executive will be someone we're not as politically aligned with. And if the rules are only meant to be there when it's convenient.
Yeah. Who cares if you align on other issues?
Yeah.
If the law is being broken and the position's being abused, and we, again, are following, let's assume, again, following rules, and the charter's not being followed.
So we will give updates next week. We'll also update on some of the county business that happened. The veto override was elected, or was chosen 7-0.
Yeah.
Unanimously. So the Board of Ethics will get independent counsel, despite the executive's veto of that legislation. We'll give plenty of other updates, and we'll update everybody on this. In the rest of this episode, we're actually going to bring some folks in with another very important topic that's coming up is the biodiesel refinery that's out near Atkins Mill and Old Hickory Road. This is going to go up to the Board of Appeals at the end of March. It's also a public hearing. And it's interesting to see how much of a role the state has played, but also how important the county government in that zoning process will actually play for those people as their issue plays out in public.
And can I insert one more thing on a slightly different topic? At the last council meeting held earlier this week, we had anticipated that there would be a representative from Delmarva Power to speak about the high power bills, and a lot of the people have reached out to all of us on this issue. Yep. Unfortunately, the spokesperson from DP&L, Delmarva Power and Light, became ill shortly before the council meeting, so they were unable to attend. So we've got nothing to update you on this week, but hopefully at the next council meeting, a representative from Delmarva Power will be there, and we'll be able to do some more updates on the high cost of your electricity.
I would anticipate we probably wouldn't see them come back for actually another meeting after that. We have been told that at the next county council meeting, we should see the fiscal year 24 audit presented. And I want to speak to one thing about that. We've been very vocal about that as well. Again, just like in the situation with this deputy director of administration, this does not go to the wonderful job that the folks in the finance department do on a daily basis. Working so hard. We know that their numbers are posted. We understand that now. But as taxpayers in the county charter, it does say that that those numbers are to be audited. Not to prove that they didn't do their job, but to prove that our elected officials did what they said they were going to do. And that's just not done.
It's about where the buck stops.
Yeah.
And it's a customary and ordinary business practice, whether it's the business of government or in the private sector. You do annual audits.
And I think that this goes to maybe some of the other issues we have brought up. This one's going to be 3 months late. And we were told, well, historically, the last 10 years, they've been 2 months late. it doesn't get better unless people start to raise their hands. I mean, if we let it go 4 months late, that means literally we will have a budget proposed at the same time that an audit from 2 years ago comes about, and that won't work. At that point, we'll be spending money we don't even know we have.
That's just insane.
So it's just time for folks to stand up and say, hey, this is what the charter says. So either change the charter or change the process.
Right.
Well, when we come back, I'm going to sit down with Lee Richardson, who's a farmer on the east side of Wicomico County, and get a good sense of just how the Farm Bureau, the farming community rally around a community against the biodiesel refinery. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. I want to take some time to just really get a sense for the local community around the biodiesel refinery on the west side of Wicomico County, just how it impacts their lives, maybe their property values, and just what their goals are for the Board of Appeals that's going to come up in March. In the studio with me is Joe Diggs and Rhonda Temko. Ladies, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, indeed.
So, Rhonda, you own Little Hoof Farm over on the west side?
Yeah, we live on Log Cabin Road. We have a small family business, selling eggs and our baked goods, sourdough. And we moved there 4 years ago intentionally to be in that community. So.
Okay. And you're about a mile from the biodiesel refinery.
As the crow flies, we're actually less than 3/4 of a mile.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Joe, you actually live on Atkins Road, the same road that this.
I do. Been there for 25 years. I'm about less than a quarter of a mile from the biorefinery.
So I want to ask each of you, when did you become aware that this refinery was on near your properties?
Well, it was around June I started noticing some building going up back there, some new wood going up, but you ride by and you just take notice. Never thought anything too strange about it. Then I saw it closed in like in August, and it was huge. So I said, wow, that's some storage building there.
Yeah.
But then it had this big high roof in the middle, and I'm like, I started asking questions, and being a little more, obvious of what's going on. And some contacts we have from a few years ago when we were having like 13 CAFOs to be built around the corner from us on Northwest Road.
So a CAFO is a concentrated animal farm, correct?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So some people out there may not know that, but basically that's a state permit that you're going to have a certain number of chickens or pigs or whatever on agricultural land, correct?
Right.
Okay. And you saw an influx of applications for that?
Well, a contact that I know, Monica Brooks, she's very observant of anything environmental, and she contacted us and said, hey, somebody in your area put in for an air permit. So that raised a lot of questions.
Because that's not something that normally a farm would have to do to do farming operations on their property, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So
when did you find out about it, Rhonda?
I found out about it I want to say right around Christmas time.
Okay.
Because the residents over in Canterbury worked really hard to try and make sure that people in the immediate area knew what was going on because it had flown under everyone's radar. And so they created a Facebook group, invited us. Joe came over and we talked about it. And so we've been working for the last 6-8 weeks to try and create awareness about this because it literally was an enigma.
Well, what are some of the ways you have created awareness about this?
Well, we've used the private Facebook group for the neighbors.
What is your Facebook group?
It's Families Not Refineries.
Okay.
That's the group.
Is it a public or you have
It's
to
a
be...
private group.
Okay.
You have to be invited to it. Okay. But if people are interested, they can let us know because our goal is really to make this more than a Canterbury issue. This is a county, regional, Eastern Shore minimally issue. And so we knew we were going to the council meeting last month. We showed up to, share. A few of us showed up to share. This month on Tuesday night, we had probably close to 20 people come to share and give testimony. And so I made a post on my personal page and then shared it on my farm business page and shared it in one of the local town pages.
I was at the second meeting in February, and during public comments, several of your neighbors did speak out against it, and I saw on PAC 14. I wasn't at this last meeting, but I saw PAC 14 that there was well over a dozen folks who took public comments at the time. Joe, I want to get a sense of, is there other means that you've gotten information out there to folks besides just speaking to because the county council actually doesn't do any of the approval, but it is a vehicle for you to express your concerns in the community. But what other means have you used?
Well, once we realized what was proposed to be built there, my next door neighbor and I, Melissa, we got a petition written up, and we went around like a mile radius around this proposed area, and I guarantee it, 95% of the residents had no idea about this.
Because there wasn't permits put on the property saying that there was a hearing or anything for this.
No public notice whatsoever was provided.
Now, what kind of response did you get from the county? Was it hard to get, because eventually they did get a stop work order. What was that process, and what was your success rate with that?
Well, once we started contacting the planning and zoning, trying to get more information, about the permit, what was applied for, we were told that it was just for a storage ag building, and that it was sold to them as an existing chicken farm, which it was an existing chicken farm, but there's been no chickens on that farm for years.
So it wasn't active.
Right.
Okay.
So that was kind of misleading. But once we started contacting them, telling them that, hey, something's off here, this is more than, just a storage building, they sent the building inspector out. He came out and, I think the second time he came out there, he realized, oh no, this is something manufacturing, industrial, and he contacted his boss, and they eventually put a stop work order.
So why do you think it wasn't stopped the first time? Were they not far enough along on the building process, or?
I think that's the truth. I think they were just riding by, assuming it was going to be, what they applied for. Mm-hmm. But then when they started looking closer, because we were making noise, they looked, they saw a concrete floor, they saw a drain in the floor, they saw heavy racks to move, like crane moving.
What's the significance
heavy machinery?
What's the significance of the tanker trucks that are on the property?
Well, in order for him the permit that he got from MDE,
which is the Maryland Department of Environment,
which he got in June of 2024. We've got the copies of it now. It shows that this is going to be a refinery, and it's going to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he will be trucking poultry litter from all around to this refinery.
So they bring poultry litter in.
Exactly.
Rhonda, what comes out?
So the proposal that he's written up very extensively about is the end product is two things, biochar and biofuel.
What's biochar?
So biochar is a product that comes out of high compression, high temperature, approximately 1,000 degrees, in an oxygen-free environment. The same way you make charcoal for wood, but they take this poultry litter. It can be any organic matter whatsoever, but in this case, it's proposed to be poultry litter for the first year. They burn it, it condenses down and concentrates all the nutrients and the organic matter, things like phosphorus, carbon. That's the main point of it, is to sequester carbon.
Okay.
And then repackage that and sell it as a fertilizer. The other result is biogas. Now, when you go to InBio's website, which is the company that's doing this project, you can't find anything about it. So I had to go pull up the original grant proposal, and that's how I have an understanding. Biofuel is supposed to be marketed to as airplane fuel, as truck and car fuel, as machinery fuel, but there's not a market for it yet because it's a new product.
Well, the biochar itself, if it's concentrated in phosphorus, that's a highly regulated nutrient.
Correct.
And now we're asking for what a lot of folks would consider a pollutant, and farmers use it very judiciously to be actually processed right next to your homes.
Yeah.
Outside of this project, how many other farms have you ever registered a complaint about?
0.
No.
I love farming.
Yeah.
I am a small farmer.
Okay. So you're not attacking farmers
no,
or their
absolutely
right
not.
to farm?
We have a lot of friends that are farmers,
Okay.
Commercial ag farmers. And, we might in the neighborhood all have differing views. We all might be coming to this with, different fights. The reality is this is about a company that has falsified intentions and not been clear. And when we went to the council meeting this past Tuesday night to voice our concerns, I feel that the council, this is my interpretation, the council was really generous and actually responded to the public statements that night. And it's very clear to me that this didn't get snuck in by the county.
No,
They were completely ignorant, as we were.
I think they were blindsided.
And this gentleman took liberty to file for permits and construct different than what he filed for.
Well, and the whole construction, by our understanding, is about $7 million. Is that an accurate amount?
Oh no, his project is a total of $40 million in the end expense. Now the funding at this point is a little over $3 million.
Okay.
Correct.
So he's got money in it too.
Okay.
He's got investments and he's got other investors involved in this company.
How do you? I mean, so Raj Kuthra is the gentleman who owns this property, but he's also on the State Agriculture Commission. Do you think that
you know
plays a
that?
role? I know. Yeah, I actually looked it up.
I believe I read that yesterday. Looking.
So I'm sorry, can you restate that?
He's on the Maryland Agriculture Commission, which is, state of Maryland. His specialty is biofuels.
Okay. So his grant funding is from the Department of Agriculture.
So do you see this as a potential? We don't know. Is it a potential conflict of interest?
If what you've said is true, combined with what we know about the grant funding, I'm obviously shocked. As a taxpayer, I'm obviously
and
shocked.
I would think that would be a conflict of interest too. I know he got the first grant for $1.2 million, and that was to build a biorefinery, just as
Willards,
this
yeah.
one in Willards on the Chesnick farm property. Now,
And we're aware of that one as well, although it's not active.
it's not active.
We're trying to make
and
sure everybody understands. There's not one in Willards.
It's not one in Willards, but the building is there.
Yeah.
But for some reason, things went south, and he relocated, and the state gave him another $1.8 million to relocate. He moved all the equipment from the Chesnick property, but that building is there. So it's like taxpayer money just got.
So what are you hoping the outcome is at the Board of Appeals at the end of March? It's a public hearing, by the way.
Right. So I feel, I'm giving the grace and the understanding of seeing their reactions on Tuesday night when we were there. I expect that the Planning and Zoning Committee feels the same way. He's issued a stop work order because he's operating an industry in a residential agricultural zone. And so you can't do industry. You have to be in an industrial zone. Mm-hmm. And so I don't see how the county planning and zoning could grant his appeal because he's not changing his usage.
Well, and we've done some other shows about this. Planning and zoning is different than the Board of Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not actually going to be seen by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So the Board of Appeals
It's
is
the Board of Appeals.
Yeah.
I
And-
believe his argument is actually against the planning and zoning because his argument and the reason he got a lawyer is to argue that their decision is incorrect.
right.
That he can actually have an industrial.
Planning and zoning would have to go back and do a text amendment change to grant this as light industry or industrial land. Now, we've seen that process in Salisbury play out with not the most transparent fashion. I mean, when they did the zoning density change, many of us were there, spoke out against it, lots of testimony against it, and then it was immediate vote and 6-1 to move it along. I think in your case, if the Board of Appeals, which could grant an exception, not likely to, there's probably going to be a lawsuit.
Well, let's discuss the specifics of that. So this building that he's erected is 193 feet from the property line of his neighbors. His neighbor's wellhead is 25 feet from that line.
Oh, wow.
So the building and the industry, the plant, which he calls it a plant, is less than 225 feet from a neighbor's wellhead.
And it's right on top of the paleo channel.
Yeah, and when I needed to redo my septic system, I needed to be 200 feet from wellheads for my house.
Yeah.
So
And you're not producing biochar, right?
no, it's just 4 of us that live there. So, I feel one of the things that I think has come out of this for me is it's really important for us to understand local and county civics, to be involved in the process, to understand who's responsible for what decisions, how did we get to this place. And I'm hopeful that because we're able to get on platforms like this and have a voice, that this will be bigger than Canterbury, Log Cabin Road, Hickory Mill, because if he is granted the ability to complete and run this plant, his plans are to put 5 more in this immediate area.
Oh, so come into a neighborhood near you.
Yeah.
Right.
And if he doesn't complete this plant, I am certain that his intentions would be to put it somewhere else in this region, because that's where his funding is for, this region.
Have either of you reached out to your local delegation as state senators or delegates
Yes.
been made aware?
I got a response back from Andy Harris's office,
Okay, your Congress.
Grace, and basically just told us how we could pursue it, which is what we're doing and who we should contact. But
Well, I will tell you, one of the nice things about having participation in local county government is I can tell you our local delegation, which is our state senators and state delegates, Mary Beth Carroza,
Cherie?
Ms. Sample Hughes will be there. They will come to our county council sometime the first week of May and have a work session. There's a great chance, and if you want, I'll send you their information to supply them with questions, and they will allow them. They'll have seen the decision by the Board of Appeals, and they may be able to speak to it as a state level.
At that meeting.
yeah, Cherie Sample Hughes, I've been in contact with her via email, and she instructed us to initiate the petition, which is why we started at the first place. And right now we have like 230 signatures just from our neighborhood, and there's many more that we can get. But
We've added some online too since this posting went out Monday. I haven't looked at that because we're working with some folks from environmental groups. SESH is one of them, and so they're maintaining the online database of the people who have signed that petition.
And I'm really not sure how helpful she's going to be, because I've been watching some of the bills that she's been supporting, in Annapolis, and one of them is a biofuel bill. So,
Well, I think the number one thing, and hats off to both of you for getting as involved as you have been. It's incredibly hard work.
It is.
And you're protecting your homesteads. I mean, this is very personal. We've seen this with other issues that we've covered, but just keep in mind, at least having the one platform to continue to come back to jump to with your county council gives you that voice to maybe take the next leap forward, whether it's to a state delegation, through an environmental group. Josh Hastings, for instance, is very active with natural resources and that sort of thing. So,
and I want people to know, I want the public to know that neither of us are against a better way to utilize poultry litter.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And I'm all for it if they can do it in a more sustainable manner. The thing that's got us in such an uproar is the fact that he did it blindly behind our backs, no public notice, and he's done it in a residential neighborhood where it's not zoned for, with a HOA.
well, I'm going to ask both of you if you'd be willing to come back on in April and help us with the update. And we wish you very, very good luck. And
We appreciate it.
hope you get happy news. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this segment of Open Agenda. We'll be right back. Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. In this segment, we're going to spend some time with a local farmer and discuss just some of the implications that the diesel refinery on the west side of Wicomico County could have, not just to communities, but either other farms as well. In the studio with me is Mr. Lee Richardson from Willards. Thank you.
Yep.
And Mike Goldberg from Delmar. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen.
Glad to be here.
So, for anybody who doesn't know you're a farmer in Willards.
Yep.
What do you grow?
We're mainly a grain operation and poultry. We grow corn, soybeans. We have about 120,000 chickens at a time, and we grow sweet corn.
You're kind of popular for the sweet corn, aren't you?
We've been known for it.
Yeah. I mean, you'll use just a little less butter. If you stop by the Richardson farm.
We tell everybody no butter until you try it.
At least try it first, right?
That's right.
I've even eaten it raw, and it's really good that way.
That's how we
well.
try it. Taste it. Yep.
So I wanted to ask you, just and maybe it seems obvious, but just how integrated is agriculture into our local economy in Wycomico County?
Well, to be honest with you, it pretty much runs the economy. I think in Wycomico County. I mean, you think of all the Purdue employees, all the farmers that are in the county. Just it all stems from there. A lot of your supply companies,
even truck drivers, right?
Truck drivers, yeah, by a lot. Yep. So Warwick, has a program for truck drivers, and that's probably big reason is for all the poultry and stuff around and grain and everything. So it's we don't want to see it leave. Let's put it that way.
I think it would affect everything from the schools to
definitely
to just accounting offices,
right.
Everything in between.
Right.
What role does the Farm Bureau in Wycomico County play in exactly what you all are doing?
Our job is to advocate for agriculture.
Okay.
Educate the non-agriculture community when we can. We also lobby when there's time to lobby as far as new laws or stuff like that affect agriculture. Is probably one of our bigger things at the state level. And, the state level keeps us informed, and then at the county level, we deal with the local stuff.
So, I mean, even going back to the late 90s when you got the right to farm bill passed, I mean, is that where the Farm Bureau kind of gets you all together as a common group?
Yeah, we're grassroots. We're all agriculture based. Some ag businesses or farmers and stuff. So yeah, we would have gathered then to make sure that legislation got passed to protect agriculture in the county. At that time, we were starting to get a lot of, some people call them come-eres, that were moving here, and the land was getting eat up by housing. People didn't understand agriculture, so the right to farm law came into effect to protect us from people that didn't understand, was probably more the better way of putting it.
How important their food source was.
Yeah, yep.
So what role does the county permitting have in maybe not just your operation, but just farm operations in general? How often does that interact?
Not as much as it has, more than in the past. Like at one time, we didn't even need a permit to put a building up.
Okay.
If it was for ag. Now you have to get a permit. There's not a fee, but there is a permit process, and it's to capture probably what are you building it for. Make sure that if you need a soil and erosion, we still need a soil and erosion plan and possibly other things if we're disturbing over a certain amount of area.
But maybe the county doesn't oversee the entire process, but it is incumbent of you telling the truth about what you're going to use the building for, correct?
You should be having to put what it's for and everything. I've not had to get a permit in quite some time, so I don't know whether it captures everything it should or not. I'm not sure. Well, I don't want to say it does.
Well, what about if you were looking to expand? Like, say you're going to add 2 more chicken houses.
Now that becomes more at the state level than for the CAFO permitting.
Okay.
So that
CAFO being concentrated animal feeding operations.
Yep, that's correct. So anything over, I think it's 20 or 30 some thousand chickens, you're a CAFO. If you expand, you have to go through a rigorous process and hearings with MDE and stuff like that to expand or even build a new one.
What's the purpose of those hearings? I mean, to make sure that you're not creating pollution or?
Inform the neighbors to make sure that it's built in a certain way that it does not pollute. Okay. Because there's a zero water discharge now from CAFOs that are being built. So if I built 2 new houses on that particular area, it would have to be zero discharge.
Okay.
So it'd be a sediment pond, something like that. Whereas in the past, it didn't necessarily have to have that exactly.
So in your normal process with the state and the MDE, the Maryland Department of Environment, you're not actually having to go up to the Board of Appeals of Wycomico County on a normal business process.
Probably not for that, not for chicken houses, no. Okay. Or a shed or anything like that. That's for the poultry. When you increase those numbers of birds and stuff that it pretty much is by the state, not local.
So there's a big controversy now with the biodiesel refinery on the west side. Mr. Kuthra has permits from the county, similar to what you were saying, that, to build buildings, but his approval process came through the state to put a biodiesel refinery in. What's the process you have as far as your materials you keep on your farm? Do they need to stay on your farm to process?
Yes. So in other words, any mortality of the birds, goes into what we have as a composter, and it biodegrades. And then once they biodegrade, we can then spread it on the land that we till, or it means a broker can take it to another grain farm, usually grain farm. Sometimes it goes to the mushroom houses up in Pennsylvania, but they follow where it goes to.
Okay.
Always.
So if there's a problem, they can backtrack.
Yeah, that's right. And so we try to use every bit we can. It's gotten more difficult over the years because of phosphorus levels and stuff like that. So we might have to export to other farms. When I say other grain farms, not to other poultry farms, but to other grain farms, or to what they call a broker for manure.
Well, what if a chicken farm down the road, maybe their compost pit is full? Are they allowed to bring a couple birds down and throw them?
No.
Okay.
The poultry companies don't allow that, and it's probably not allowed by the state even because of disease and all that. So in other words, they want to keep that separate.
Well, one of the common rallying cries about this biodiesel refinery is it's supposed to be collecting these types of materials, even plant materials, and concentrating them in one place. I mean, what's your what's your take on that?
So at that point, it's not the right to farm law was to protect farmers doing normal ag practices. Say we normally go out in the spring and spread manure. That's normal. So it might smell. You can't do anything about it. When we go out there and put fertilizer or stuff, as long as it's to the rates that are accepted by the state, they can't do anything about it. We can put a hog pen up and put hogs out there, and it smells bad, but it's still allowed. It's a normal agricultural practice. This biorefinery kind of gets hairy. It's if he had chickens in several houses and wanted to take his own manure and make bioenergy, whatever he's doing with it, that's acceptable. Even though it's new, but when he starts taking it from other farms, it's not normal practice.
You'd have to wonder, is it worth spending $7 million of state taxpayer money for a grant that he received just to make enough biodiesel from your own farm?
Right.
What are you gonna make, a tank of gas or
Right.
something?
Right.
But if it's actually processing, that's outside of agriculture. It's a processing plant.
In my opinion, I would say it's no longer agriculture than it is more of a commercial business.
Yeah.
So at that point, there should be different rules and stuff. I feel like that he's not protected under the right to farm law then, really.
So one of the interesting things in doing some research, some of our crew has found that Raj Kuthra is actually on the state agriculture commission for biodiesel. When you see that, and I also understand that there was another attempt on the east side of Wycomico County by the same person to put a similar, maybe smaller operation. I mean, you're a homeowner too, and you're a resident. You have many generations. I mean, what responsibility do you think even the folks who are operating the farms have to their neighbors as far as where the rules are?
We try to do everything we can to be neighborly. I mean, granted, we have to spread the manure, to get the use of it, and it smells. But at the same time, when we're doing other things or trying new things, we consider the neighbors, and so to prevent problems. Because when you have problems, then new laws come and new restrictions and stuff like that. So why not try to get along to start with? So to get back to the one, to get this grant money, and I'm kind of getting concerned about where this grant money is going myself, because I have talked to some of these companies in the past about doing something on our farm, and it was just to use our manure or anything. It wasn't biodiesel, it was something else. But at the same time, I feel like they get this grant money and then they don't really worry about whether it works or not, because they've already got the money. And as long as they can show salaries went to these people and this, that, and the other, that where the money went, and that was the cost, there's nothing they can do about getting the money back. The state doesn't have to work.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of concern about where this money's going.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that this is one of those kind of projects, but it just seems like, so the one in Willards that they were trying to do, what was the reason that it's not working or still going or moving forward?
Well, so I think the Board of Public Appeals they're gonna hear this case at the end of March, And I think if people have those questions, that's a good time for them to come because there'll be a chance to speak. Also, I think you're going to see our local delegation come through county council meetings in the spring after the state session's over. These are things that, our state representatives need to be asking the questions on our behalf as well, don't you think? Who would be responsible for a cleanup if there was a problem there?
Sure.
Is it the county? Is it state taxpayers? There's no such thing as free money.
Right.
So this grant money came from somewhere that somehow that citizens paid for.
Sure. And if I was a neighbor, I'd be asking a lot of questions that, is there, if we're dealing with a methane gas, is an explosion considered? Is that a possibility? Maybe not. I don't know enough about the system or what it actually is going to do, but it's certainly it kind of, the one that they were doing in Willards was a much smaller system, and if it didn't work, why are we building a bigger system?
And that one's not active, and that
that's
hasn't
my
ever been
understanding.
active
That's
yet.
my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
So not to get anybody fearful out there, but
sure.
Well, thanks for coming in and speaking with us. It does sound just like I feel that we all have more questions than answers. I do think that the process here really now runs through the Board of Appeals. I do think people should know out there that this is probably going to end up in some sort of legal action. Somebody's not going to be happy with the results, so it's going to end up in a court system somewhere. So if people have questions, now's the time to ask them because they're going to get asked eventually.
Sure.
Well, thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.
I know what I'm doing, man.